Hey, fifth grade, how's it going? Mr. Joseph here. Welcome back. Today is October 26, 2020. Good to have everyone here. You are going to be using your 5B book today. So if you don't have that book, please go get it. It's important that you use that today. In your 5B book, there are tons of topics that we will not get to, unfortunately, this year. For example, we're going to start with decimals today, and then there's also percent, average, rate, areas of triangles and parallelograms, tesselination, solids, and volume. And then there's algebra. We're not really going to get to any of those topics in depth, but we will kind of see a couple of them just kind of on the surface. So what I'd like you to do is open up your book to the decimals chapter, which we will get to today. A couple of the problems that you're going to see, boys and girls, are not in your workbook, but they're just to get you to understand a little bit more about decimals, relate your understanding from previous years, and give you more of a visual representation of these problems. For example, you've understood that decimals are parts of numbers. They are portions of a whole number. So for example, we have this decimal on the screen, which shows us 4 and 728 hundredths of a number, right? So this is not 4,728. This is 4 and 728 thousandths of a kilogram. We can also represent decimals on a number line. Now, I know you can't see this picture very well, but you can pretty much understand that 4 and 72 hundredths and 4 and 73 hundredths are two different numbers, right? And we can represent that number in the middle by using thousandths. In other words, smaller portions of a number. What we're going to do today is we're going to try to represent some of those numbers on this number line. So, for example, we have the first number is 3 and 128 hundredths. What we can do is we can represent that on the screen. I'm going to show you that on the screen. Let me just make this a little bit bigger so you can see that. All right. So I'm going to show you with the tool here. Here we go. 3 and 148 thousandths can be put on our number line if we count the decimal places, right? We have 3 and 14 tenths. I'm sorry, 14 hundredths, and then we have 3 and 15 hundredths right here. If we count the notches, we can also understand that this is 3 and 141 hundredths, 3 and 142 hundredths, 3 and 143 hundredths, and we can continue like that, right? 3 and 148 hundredths is right about there, okay? So if we wanted to put that as two decimal places, boys and girls, we would just have to look at this number, 3 and 148 tenths, hundredths, thousandths, okay? The 4 is actually going to change to a 5. It's going to go up because this 8 right next to it is a larger number, okay? If we have a mountain, for example, we have 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are all going to stay the same. But if we have any number that's larger than 5, that's going to go up. It's going to continue going up. So this is going to be approximately equal to 3 and 15 hundredths. Okay, we have tenths, hundredths. 3 and 15 hundredths. Okay, so this first number is going to be 3 and 15 hundredths. Let's continue by doing a couple more problems and then go to your workbook. Actually, in your workbook, it's going to be the same thing. You're going to be asked to show the number in a decimal form rounded to the nearest two decimal places. So let's do that first problem together. First problem has us looking at 5 and 967 thousandths. Well, I know that that number is going to be closer to 5 and 97 hundredths because 5 and 96 hundredths is pretty far away, actually. If we look at our number, which is right there, it's actually closer to this hundredth spot than this one. So our answer is going to be 5 and 97 hundredths. So that first answer right there is going to be equal to approximately 5 and 97 hundredths. I'd like you to try letters B and C on your own. So, is this number right here closer to the first number or the second number? All right, let's check your answers. So our number 21 and 504 thousandths is right here on our number line. It's not closer to 21 and 5 tenths. It's actually, I'm sorry, yes it is. It's closer to 21 and 5 tenths or 50 hundredths, because if you go like this amount is much shorter than this amount right here. Okay, it also rounds down to 50 hundredths and not up to 51 hundredths. So our answer, 21 and 504 thousandths, is going to be approximately 21 and 5 tenths, or you could put that 0 in there if you really wanted to. Your answer is going to be 21 and 5 tenths, or you could actually, it's the same thing as 21 and 50 hundredths. Okay, you can have that 0 in there if you want to. It's optional. Okay? Either one of these answers is correct. Let's go to letter C. Try to do that one on our own first. All right, so our number 17 and 6 hundredths is approximately close to 17 and 1 hundredth. Okay, so we have our number 17 and 6 thousandths is going to be approximately equal to 17 and 1 hundredth, because that 6 is actually going to make that 0 go up. Okay, so there's your answer for letter C. All right, let's go to the next problem. Now that we're understanding tenths and hundredths, boys and girls, I think it's important that you try some of these problems on your own. Go to page 7 on the bottom and try these problems on your own. Round the numbers to the nearest 2 decimal places. All right, did you get a chance to do a couple of those problems on your own? Let's pick a few of them. So if we have 0 and 8 hundredths, I know that this 8 is actually going to make this 1, the 0 go up to a 1, okay, in the hundredth spot. Okay, so this 0 is going to change to a 1, this 8 is going to come to a 0, right? So our answer is 0 whole numbers, 0 tenths, and 1 hundredth. Okay, these numbers are approximately equal. Okay, they're not exactly the same, but they are approximately the same number. Okay, again, you can use either a comma or a decimal point to show your place value. In English, we use the decimal point. In Spanish, we use the comma. So it's your preference, whatever you decide. Let's do one more problem, actually, on this page. We're not going to do them all. Let's do this one right here. This one's a little bit more difficult. So if we have a number like 4 and 35 thousandths, okay, and we need to do it to the 2 decimal places, I'm going to look at this number right here where the 3 is. And this 5 is going to tell us to go up, right? So this 3 is actually going to change to a 4. And this 5 is going to change to a 0. So our number is approximately 4 and 0 tenths, but now we have 4 hundredths. Okay, so your answer, 4 and 4 hundredths. All right, so again, 4 and 35 thousandths is approximately the same as 4 and 4 hundredths. Okay? You can see the 0 is in both spots in the tenths, but then this 35 thousandths went up to 4 hundredths. Okay, if that's confusing, boys and girls, it's really important that we pay attention to our decimal places, and we'll practice a little bit more about this. Okay, what I'm going to do is I'm going to erase everything on the screen, and then I'm also going to delete this box right there so you guys can see these answers and check them on your own. All right, let's go to the next couple of problems. On the next couple of problems, boys and girls, we are going to be relating our understanding of rounded decimal points to division of decimals. This is going to be a little bit more complicated. You need to remember how to divide decimals. Okay? If you don't remember how to divide decimals, that's okay. Do you remember how to divide regular numbers? What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to divide regular numbers and then include the decimal point in your answer. So for example, if you can see this problem right here, 77 hundredths divided by 9 is 9 hundredths. And what we basically did was we divided 77 by 9, and then we divided by the place value to include our decimal point in the answer. Okay, you'll notice that our answer is much smaller than this divisor right here. Okay, 9 and 65 hundredths divided by 8 is going to equal 1 and 21 hundredths. And 27 and 69 hundredths divided by 4 is equal to 6 and 92 hundredths. You'll notice, boys and girls, if we estimate these, for example, this last problem, 6 and 92 hundredths is approximately 7. If we take 7 times 4, I know that 7 times 4 is 28, and 27 and 69 hundredths is approximately 28. It's pretty close to 28, okay? So my answer is correct. Let's do a couple problems together. So the first problem that we see on the board is 70 divided by 9. Now, we're going to do these problems together because I think it's important that you understand division in many different ways. Okay, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see that. Let's make this a little bit bigger. Here we go. Make that bigger. All right, so here we have 70 divided by 9. Okay, 70 divided by 9. Let me go back 1 second. All right, so our first problem is going to give us an answer as a decimal. Okay? If we take 70 divided by 9, boys and girls, it's important that we set up our problem correctly first. So I'm actually going to put 9 on the outside, and I'm going to put 70 on the inside. You can already see, we're going to try to see how many times 9 goes into 7. 9 doesn't go into 7. Okay, so we're going to actually put a 0 right here. But 9 does go into 70. So I'm going to right away put my decimal point in my answer blank. 9 times what equals approximately 70? Well, I know that 9 times 6 is 54. I know that 9 times 7 equals 63. I know that 9 times 8 equals 72. Okay, so I don't want to go over, right? So I'm not going to do 9 times 8. That would be going over. So I'm actually going to be going with 9 times 7. 9 times 7 equals 63. Now I can subtract to continue with my problem. 70 minus 63 equals 7. Now, what's interesting about this problem, boys and girls, is what I need to do is I need to recognize that first of all, I put my decimal point in the wrong spot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually move that decimal point over to this spot right here. Okay, now I know that 9 times 7 equals 63, and I'm going to put my decimal point in the correct spot. So it actually goes right here to the right of my 7. Okay, and I'm going to bring down any numbers that are in my next spot. There aren't any numbers, so I'm going to actually add a 0. And I'm going to bring that 0 down. Okay, and I'm going to continue my problem. Now what I'm basically trying to figure out, boys and girls, is to try to figure out how many times 9 goes into 70. In other words, this is actually a whole number, 7.0. 7 and 0 tenths. So how many times does 9 go into 70? Well, again, 9 times 7 is 63. So I'm going to actually put my 7 up here one more time. 9 times 7 is 63. I can continue to put my decimal point in my answer if I really want to. And I'm going to come up with 7 once more. So we're actually going to continue this problem forever and ever. My answer is going to be 7 and 7 tenths. Okay, now we need to do this to the 2 decimal places. So if my answer is 7.7.7777, it's going to continue. My 7 right here is going to tell this 7 to go up. Okay, so my answer is going to be 7 and 78 hundredths. Okay, that's going to be your final answer. Let's get rid of everything on the screen so that I can show you this answer. Let me just erase everything on the screen. Here we go. Okay, so my answer, boys and girls, is going to be approximately, remember, approximations are just the number that's a little bit easier to understand, 7 and 78 hundredths. Now, if I wanted to show that on the calculator, I could do that to check my answer. For example, I could check this answer by showing you that 7 and 78 hundredths times 9 gives me 70. Gives me my original answer, right? So it's important that we understand the difference between whole numbers and decimals, okay? When we're looking at decimals, we're looking at parts of a number, all right? So this is actually 7 is part of the whole number 7, and then we have 78, which is leading us towards the whole number 8, okay? Let's do another problem together. So here we have a decimal divided by a whole number. If we look at that problem, we can take 18 and 1/10, and we can divide that by 4. All right, so let's try to see how many times, and for some reason, I can't write very well on the screen because it's so small, but we're going to see how many times 4 enters 1. Well, 4 doesn't enter 1 at all. So we're actually going to put a 0 right here if we want to. It's optional. How many times does 4 enter 18? Well, 4 times 4 equals 16, so that's pretty close without going over. So we're going to take our 4 and put that on the top. I know that 4 times 4 is 16, and I can continue with my subtraction. 18 minus 16 equals 2. Now here's the fun part. We're going to move our decimal point into our answer so that we can continue our problem. We're going to drop down our next number, and we're going to try to see how many times 4 goes into 20. 4 times 5 is 20. So I'm going to put my 5 on the top, 20, and continue with my subtraction. 20 minus 20 is 0. And I'm going to bring down my next number. How many times does 4 go into 1? Well, 4 doesn't go into 1. So we're going to put 0 right here in our answer blank. And we're going to subtract. 1 minus 0 equals 1. Now, since I don't have any more space, what I would normally do is put a 0 in my spot right here and then bring that down. But since I can't bring that down, I'm going to bring it into my problem right here. All right, how many times does 4 go into 10? Well, 4 goes into 10 2 times. 2 times 4 is 8. 10 minus 8 equals 2. Now, we already found our answer because we need to find that to the 2 decimal places. Okay, so if our answer is 4 and 502 thousandths, this 2 isn't really going to tell the 0 to do anything. So our answer is actually 4 and 50 hundredths. Okay, so this is approximately 4 and 50 hundredths. Now, if you did your division in a different way, that's fine. Okay, Mr. Joseph does his division in one way. You can do your division in a different way if you really want to. What I'm going to do is I'm going to check my answer on my calculator to make sure that it was okay. So if we came up with 4.502, in other words, 4 and 502 thousandths, and we multiply that by our divisor, which was 4, we came up with 18.00. Okay, good. It was actually 18.01, and this 8 tells this 0 to go up. So that's actually correct. That's accurate. All right, we found the correct answer. What I'd like you to do, boys and girls, is try different strategies. Try different strategies to understand division a little bit better. Okay? When we're dividing decimals, it can be kind of complicated, right? Because we're looking at numbers that are not whole numbers. So take a look at the next couple of problems and try to figure them out on your own. On page 8 in your workbook 5B, again, you are dividing decimals. The first problem on letter C has you dividing 221 and 68 hundredths by 5. You can see that I've already set up my problem, and I've actually shown you the answers to try to check to see if you can do them correctly. What I really want you to understand, boys and girls, is the approximations. So if we take a look at this first problem, 21 and 68 hundredths, this is approximately 22. Or I could round it to maybe even 20. 20 divided by 5 gives us 4. So 21 and 68 hundredths divided by 5 is going to give us a number that's pretty close to 4. 4 and 34 hundredths. If we take a look at this next problem, letter D, 41 and 53 hundredths is approximately 42. If I wanted to understand the problem even better, I could say 42 divided by 6 equals what? Well, I know that 6 times 7 equals 42. So 6 and 7, this is 6 and 92 hundredths, which is approximately 7. 6 times 7 equals 42, or 41 and 53 hundredths, which is pretty close to 42. If we look at this problem where we have a smaller number as our product, 0 and 53 hundredths, divided by 7 is going to give you a much smaller number because our product was smaller. And if we look at our last problem, 24 and 5 hundredths is approximately 24. If we take 24 divided by 8, I know that 8 times 3 equals 24. So our answer is going to be approximately 3. Try to divide those numbers to see if you can come up with the most accurate number. Now I'm going to eliminate these boxes just to show you how to divide these numbers. These are optional ways that you can use. This is a strategy. If you have a different strategy, go ahead and use that strategy. That's fine too. Whatever way you use to divide decimals, as long as you come up with the correct answer, is fine. All right, let's do one or two more problems just to understand that a little bit better. Okay, we can also relate our understanding of decimals to fractions. For example, 4 and 2/3 is equal to 4 plus 2/3. But we can also show 2/3 as a decimal. For example, I could divide 2 by 3. If I divided 2 by 3, I'm going to come up with a decimal. 3 times 6 equals 18, And then we got to continue with putting our zeros in that blank, just like I showed you before. Okay, we're going to continue the problem and continue to come up with 2 as our remainder. Since 2 is going to continue to be a remainder, that 6 is going to be repeating. In other words, 4 2/3 is equal to 4 67/100. Okay, I rounded that obviously. 66 with the 6 changing the 6 to a 7 is 67/100. Okay, so it's important, boys and girls, that you understand the similarities between mixed numbers or fractions and decimals. Here's a couple of problems inside of the book to show you that these do relate. So for example, 5 7/9 is equal to 5 78/100. That was because we divided 7 by 9. You can see we divided 7 by 9 to get 0.777, which repeats, and then we find our answer to the nearest 2 decimal points. In order to relate 4 5/7 as a fraction to a decimal, we would just divide 5 by 7, and then we would come up with 714 thousandths, which is approximately equal to 71/100, and then add that into our answer blank. The 4 and the 4 are the same, you can see. Here also the 8 and the 8 are the same, but in order to relate 3/8 as a decimal, we would have to divide 3 by 8. We would come up with 375 thousandths, which is approximately equal to 38/100. All right, what I'd like you to do is try these on your own and see if you can relate a fraction to a decimal. All right, hopefully you tried that one on your own. We're going to do 1 or 2 problems together just to show this concept. Okay, so I already know that 1 8/9 is going to equal 1 point something because my 1 stays the same. To try to find 8/9 as a decimal, I'm going to divide 8 by 9. 8 divided by 9. Just to show you this a little bit easier, I'm going to try the first one on the calculator. We're going to take 8 divided by 9, which equals 0.88888, which is approximately equal to 0.89. I'm going to add that 0.89 into my answer blank. There you go. 1 8/9 is the same as 1 89 thousandths. Now, be very careful. For this next problem, 2 5/7 is not going to equal 2 57/100. Okay? Be very careful. This one is just kind of like a fluke. Okay? Just because the two numbers are the same. This is not going to be your answer for letter B. Let's check this one to see what your answer actually is. Your answer is going to be approximately 2 and something. Okay, so I'm just going to set my problem up by putting 2.0 something. Okay, now let's divide 5 by 7 to find out what our decimal is. 5 divided by 7 can be written in many different ways. In my way, I'm going to put 7 on the outside and 5 on the inside. Okay, I'm going to actually write that a little bit further up so we can work on our problem. 7 and 5. Okay, now right away I'm going to add my decimal point into my problem because we need to figure out how many times 7 goes into this problem. And since we need our number with 2 decimal points, I'm going to put 3 zeros to the right. All right, now we're ready. How many times does 7 go into 5? Well, 7 doesn't go into 5. So I'm going to put a 0 in my blank and put my decimal point right in my answer. How many times does 7 go into 50? Well, 7 times 7 is 49. So 7 times 7 is 49. I'm going to just erase this right there so we have more space. Okay. I can put my decimal point there if I really want to. It's not really necessary. 50 minus 49 equals 1. And then I'm going to bring my next number down. Okay. How many times does 7 go into 10? 7 goes into 10 one time. 1 times 7 is 7. Subtract, and we'll come up with 3. We're going to bring down our next number. How many times does 7 go into 3? Now, technically, this is not 3. This is 3 thousandths, I believe, because of our decimal point, right? It's a fraction of a number. 7 times 7, 14, 21, 24 is going to give you 28. So 30 minus 28 equals 2. We could continue if we really, really wanted to, but we don't have to because we only need 2 decimal points. So our answer is going to be 2 plus 0.714, or 714 thousandths. We're going to only add our whole numbers, right? So 2 plus 0 is 2, and then we're going to add our fraction, or our part, or our portion, or our ratio, which is 7 and 714 thousandths, which is the same as 71 hundredths. So our answer is 2 and 71 hundredths. That's your final answer. Okay, just like Mr. Joseph said in the beginning of the problem, it's not going to equal 2 and 5/7 is not going to equal 2.57. Okay? Make sure you understand that. All right? Don't just put the same numbers. Okay? All right. Cool. That's where we're going to end our lesson for today. What I'd like to show you guys is a couple of problems to practice this. The first one is on mathgames.com. You can practice by dividing decimals. All right, we have 70 divided by 10, which equals 7. Check your answer. All right, that's just going to give you a little bit more understanding of whole numbers, right? Now, 21 divided by 10 is not going to give you a whole number. I know that's going to give you 2.1 because of the fact that 10 does not equally go into 21. All right, cool. I'll put this in the video notes. This next problem has some music, apparently. We can play that if we really want to. All right, this is multiplication of decimals. So if we're moving this decimal point over 2 spots, so we can move that over 2 spots, that's going to be 120. All right, we got it. We can do our free throw. Gonna click on the basketball and score a point. Cool. All right, that'll be inside of the video notes as well. Let's try this next one. All right, let's play. What you have to do is you have to try to figure out how many times 7 and 4/10 goes. Okay, here, new problem. 5 and 9/10 plus 0.9. So I know that 9 plus 9/10 is equal to 1 and 8/10 plus 5 is 6 and 8/10. So let's actually click on 6 and 8/10. I hope I'm right. 6 and 8/10. Is that one correct? Ooh, we got it. Cool, the owls have met. I'll put this game in the video notes as well. One last game you guys can play if you really want to practice these different concepts, since we're not going to get to the problems. Mathgames.com/decimals is a really great website. You can practice increasing decimals. You can practice saying decimals in words. This will give you a whole lot better understanding of decimals, especially because we learned it in 4th grade, and we're really not going to get to all the concepts here in 5th grade. This last problem, or this last game, is kind of fun. You have to try to match the different things. I'm going to turn the music off because that's really annoying. Oh boy. So if you have a problem, you have to try to find the answer to that problem. So let me just make this a little bit bigger. Here we go. Ooh, this is difficult. Try to find the answer to 1.2 plus 3.8. I know that 8/10 plus 2/10 is equal to 1 whole. So 1 plus 3 plus 1 is 5. So we're going to find 5 as our whole number. Ooh, look at that. We found a match. Okay, so then these go together. So you have to continue finding your matches. 2/10 plus 1/10 is 3/10. And 3 plus 0 is 3, so 3 and 3/10. Where is 3 and 3/10? Ah, there it is, right there. I found my match. 3 and 3/10. Oh, where did it go? 3 and 3/10. Is that a match? Oh, I just missed it. Anyway, you guys can, it's like a puzzle. You have to try to figure out the answers. So that's where we're going to end our class for today. Hopefully you learned something, a little bit more about decimals, and we'll continue next time.